All right, what is up, everybody? I am here with Ian Miller. I'm your host, Olin Stewart, aka MMAnomaly, and this is the first official episode of MMAnomaly No Filter. So
Let's
I will let Ian
go.
Miller go ahead and introduce himself. Let's go.
How's it going? It's Ian. I'm 135 pounder and happy to be here.
The future of the bantamweight division.
You're damn fucking right.
Let's go. Awesome. So first and foremost, thank you for joining me and being on the first episode of this portion of the show, Ian. Me and Ian are definitely buddies. Go back. I've definitely tuned into probably all of his fights at this point. And super excited to chat with you about past fights, upcoming fight, and just kind of life in general and kind of what got you into the sport.
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and start off with the kind of broad and basic questions. So first and foremost, who is your favorite martial artist of all time?
Oh, that's George St. Pierre. I literally have a tattoo from him. So, we have very similar upcomings where, it's not like we grew up in the gutter or something like where some of these guys, they came from absolutely nothing. I'm lucky enough that, I never had to worry about missing a meal or anything like that, just like him. The reason I got into martial arts was from bullying, just like him. He was truly an inspiration, still is to this day. Like, every time I see Raymond Daniels, I beg him. I'm like, please bring George. Like, I need to meet this man just to thank him for all he's done for me, even though I've never met him.
I absolutely love
that'd be him.
I think that's a fantastic choice. If you ask like a room of 100 mixed martial arts fans who their top 5 are, I think at least 90 to 95% of them would have GSP in that top 5 list.
And the other 5 are wrong.
The other 5 are wrong. Absolutely right. The other 5 are definitely wrong. Okay, so George St. Pierre got you into it, or rather, he's your favorite fighter of all time.
Yeah.
Is he the first fighter that really drew you into the sport?
No, actually. So I was at Buffalo Wild Wings with my buddy Jared.
Let's go. I love a good Buffalo story.
So, yeah, and we weren't even there to watch fights. We were just there to eat. Like, I was a chubby kid, so I still love to eat to this day. But, we were there
relate.
Exactly. And, what's better than B-dubs for like a middle school, high school kid, kind of era. But I looked up at the TV and I was like, what's this? And my buddy's like, it's the UFC. You've never heard of it? And I was like, no, I have zero clue what this is. But the guy that stood out to me actually was Rampage Jackson, coming out howling, and just the amount of respect that he earned and commanded, I guess you could say. I was jealous because kid that got bullied, I never got respect ever. And that's just kind of how it was. And I was like, how do I be like that guy? Like, people respect him, people want to be him, people love him. They're freaking losing their minds for him. And I was just like, that's the kind of guy I want to be like when I grow up. So I would say that was the turning point. Literally the next day, I played hockey my whole life. So next day I quit and went out for the wrestling team because my buddy, that's what he told me I had to do. So that's exactly what happened.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when you're watching this video, make sure you comment below and let us know, is hockey the best base for MMA?
I actually know a bunch of people that have that way as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot more like ex-hockey players in mixed martial arts, both amateur and professional, than we realize.
Yeah, no, truly. Because it's a very hard sport to make it in as a professional.
Absolutely. Gluttons for punishment, too. Just like mixed martial artists.
It's at the time it was more global than MMA was, just for obvious reasons.
Sure.
So, you got guys from Russia, Croatia, Canada, especially, obviously, United States. It was just nonstop. So, at some point I was like, this fighting stuff looks way cooler.
Absolutely. It's funny that Rampage is actually the one that got you into MMA. My favorite Ultimate Fighter season was probably Rampage Jackson
season 9.
Rashad Evans, you know it. And Rashad Evans is actually the fighter that got me into MMA when he was
How?
I think it was season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter. I had actually, so it's kind of a mix, right? Obviously the season 1 finale of The Ultimate Fighter, I saw that, and there was this new feeling inside me I had never felt before, this feeling of bloodlust and excitement. And I had to tune into the next season, and I saw Rashad on there, and he was obviously undersized compared to these other guys. Just like you, I grew up in Louisiana. I was overweight.
Yeah.
I got bullied a lot, and I saw this smaller guy just whooping up on these other guys. And not only was he like beating him, like he was beating these bigger guys, but he was talking trash while he was doing it. And he was like, he made it look so easy and smooth. And I was like, wow. Like, if you look at him, like, yeah, I mean, he's ripped, right? But if you look at him compared to the guys he was beating in the house, you wouldn't be like, that guy's menacing.
I mean, he was at 185 at the end of his career for a reason. I mean,
exactly.
That small.
And that was a heavyweight season. So I saw that, and same thing. I was like, you know what? Worst case scenario, if I stand up to these bullies tomorrow, I'm going to get my butt kicked. That's fine. They're probably already going to do that anyway. So I started getting bullied a lot less after that. I got in a few more fights, but that's okay.
We won them. That's all that matters, right?
You know what I'm saying? We're still here. All right. So those are really solid answers to start off. Let me ask you this: favorite knockout of all time?
You're not gonna like this.
Oh God, I hate you already.
When Connor knocked out Jose, like that, I lost my shit.
All right. You know what? I thought you were gonna say my mind was going to some other places, some darker places. That's okay. That's an okay answer.
How much darker are we getting?
We won't go there. We won't go there. Out of respect for those that fell. But that knockout is actually really stunning, just because of all the videos that came out afterwards, literally showing Connor standing backstage, practicing that same exact fluid motion, the back step, the quick left. Like it was just, everything about it was almost predestined and like written in the stars, and
he even said it in an interview, like months ahead.
Yes. Like, you know me. I'm not a Conor McGregor fan.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You are a big Conor McGregor fan, and that's okay.
Comes with the territory of being Irish.
I'm like 25% Irish too. I can't get behind his mouthpiece. I love watching the guy fight. Every time he steps in the octagon, love him or hate him, I'm respecting what he's doing and I'm watching what he's doing. I'll admit that. It's the talking and the trash talk. Don't love that. But I will say something that I think we can both agree on is I miss that guy. I miss the guy that starts Jose Aldo.
I miss
even the brashness. Connor. Yeah, Karate Connor with the wide stance, being able to pop back and forth. Yeah, there was a difference in Connor when he actually utilized every inch of his reach advantage.
There's a famous quote. I forgot. I think it was Mike Tyson, but you probably know it better than me, or who it was rather. But it's hard to wake up and work hard when you woke up in silk sheets.
I think that was Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Yep, that's who it was.
Yeah, I think that was Marvin. Yeah, that guy's incredible boxer. Is that your favorite boxer?
Now it is. You ever? So I don't know if you have Showtime, like a subscription or what, but there's a docu-series that came out called The Kings, and it goes through that era of him, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, and Roberto Duran. It's a 4-part series, and it's amazing, and it's where I fell in love with Marvelous himself, just because he was the guy that everyone counted out. He gave himself his own nickname because he wanted to be respected, and he put in the work. He outworked all those guys, in my opinion.
And that's what you have to do. That's exactly what you have to do. That's the same reason I really like Roy Jones Jr. as a boxer. Like, I was always a Roy Jones Jr. fan, and same thing. Like, I feel like he outworked the competition, and
100%.
You aren't born with really crazy unorthodox striking. Like, I remember watching, I forget which fight it was, but he threw like 7 left hooks in a row, and like 5 of them landed crisp. Nobody else, especially at that time, was doing anything like that. So you're not born with that kind of talent. And literally, like, listening to him in interviews and things like that, like on the Joe Rogan podcast, talking about how like he studied roosters and like their pecking order, and like that's how he came up with some boxing maneuvers. I'm like, this guy is special.
Like, he's crazy.
He's very special, and his work ethic is it's second to none. It's insane listening to that guy talk about work. Same with Marvin Hagler. Like, the guy put in so much work so that no matter what you did, you couldn't beat him. And even if you did, he probably wasn't going to feel bad about it because he knew he did everything in his power to prep for you.
No, and like even going back to Connor, he even said to himself, "There's no such thing as talent."
No.
So and some of the guys I've gotten to work with and whatnot, like you may think it is, but they're just busting their ass every day, and it's impressive. Some guys have some natural ability. I mean that is what it is.
Sure.
They're just
some
more
people are going to be
athletic.
naturally strong. Some people have like the touch, as they call it, right, where you have that knockout power. And a lot of times those people with knockout power, they're very unsuspecting. It's not like the big strong guy that's jacked as hell. It's like the guy that literally looks like Sean O'Malley. That's a weight class or two under you that just clips you, and you're like, what the fuck is in that guy's gloves? Because it's not a normal human hand.
There's a guy I train with at flyweight. Massive flyweight though. He's like 5'10", 5'9".
Sure.
But he has that touch, and he's creative as hell with his striking. He actually just fought like I'm gonna say 2 weeks ago in Combate, and
oh, nice.
I mean, he hit this dude with an uppercut, and the guy looked like he'd been touched by God. Like stumbled back. His name's Carlos Puente Jr. He's one of my favorite people to train with. Just a great guy, but just he's got that shit. I don't know why. I don't know how. But he hits you, and you're like, how did you do that so perfect? And in all honesty, I don't think it has anything to do with power. I think it's placement.
It's placement. It's always placement. It's placement and timing. It's always those two things, in my opinion. Like, 100%. If I'm standing upright and you catch me right on the right spot of the chin, it doesn't matter who you are, how much smaller than me you are. It's probably not going to feel great, and it might make my knees go inward like a little 6-year-old that's got to pee real bad. Like, that's typically how it works. And it's the same thing with like wrestling. It's not like, I mean, unless your name is Khabib Nurmagomedov, it's nothing about strength, really. It's just like, oh, his technique is just that much better than mine. I feel literally like I'm swimming with a shark and I'm a freaking guppy. Like, this isn't fair. Like, there was like to what you said about a flyweight. Like, if I were to fight professionally, I would probably fight at lightweight or featherweight at the latest, right? Like, when I was training heavily at AKA, I would walk around at like 165, 170. So I feel like 145, 155 would probably be a natural cut for me. A flyweight. Okay, all right.
You're going to ban him these days.
That's why I'm not doing it. I love food too much, bro. I grew up in the South. But this little flyweight, his name is Antoine Hidrio. He's just like, I think he's French. And this guy would crush me on wrestling drills. And he's tiny. Like, he's not even a big guy. He's just tiny. Yeah. And I remember one day we were switching out, I think every 2 minutes we'd switch partners.
Like a fresh body?
Yeah, fresh body drills. And basically we were going like, if you I think it was you start on the bottom, if you get to the top in the 2 minutes, that guy's out. If you start on the top and you remain on the top for the 2 minutes, you stay in, right?
As the bottom.
Yeah, you start as the bottom until basically until you get controlled for 2 minutes, you're in. This guy was in for 25, like 26 minutes. They were swapping in heavyweights, like a 240-pound guy started on top of him, and he's all just like transition and sweeps. And I'm like, how are you doing this? It doesn't make logical sense to anybody watching. And like afterwards, like I went the last round with him. He didn't get eliminated. Like, class ended. That's the only reason he got cut off at like 25, 26 minutes. And I literally suplexed him at one point to try and sweep. And he lands like in this weird like reverse position on his feet, spread backwards and like suspended north-south. And I'm like, I'm on top. And it was like a half second that I was on top. And he somehow hits the switch and ends up on top of me. And I was just like, again, doesn't make any fucking sense how you did that to me. It doesn't make any sense. And he like, and like, he's the nicest guy. And I'm sure you had this situation where like the people that mess you up the worst are the nicest people in the world. So you can't even be bitter. Like, right after that, he's all, hey, great job. You were really close that last time, my friend. You want to work an extra couple of minutes? I can show you some technique. And I'm like, that'd be great, Antoine. Thank you. Like,
if someone used a French accent like that on me, we're fucking fighting.
Dude, this guy was like the most unsuspecting little dude. He's so friendly, but like I remember I worked with him for probably like 5-10 minutes after class. We just like went in the corner of the big red room at AK, and he taught me a valuable lesson in wrestling, jiu-jitsu, basically everything martial arts related, most things life related that day. He's like, you are overthinking everything you do. So when you come at me, when you try to do something to me, look at what I'm doing first. If I'm planting on my hands, take one of them from me. One of them. Don't focus on both of them. You take my wrist. Once you take my wrist, then you focus where my weight shifts. Then you take that from me. You take and you take and you take one thing at a time until I have nothing left. And then you're in control. And then I'm worried about taking from you. And like those words resonated with me. And like, again, like I'd been training for years at that point. And I was like, it's like when you watch a martial arts movie and the coach is like, breathe through every strike. And you're like, that's the advice. Like that's it. That's the big inspirational speech. The guy's like, take one thing at a time. And I'm like, that's it. But then every day after that, I felt so much better at it.
My jiu-jitsu coach, Matt Salinas at 10th Planet Mission Viejo, he has a very he doesn't believe in moves per se, right? It's more
of a flow,
more concept.
Okay.
So one of his famous quotes he gives us is, think of your body as a table, right? 4 posts. You take one post away, what's going to happen to that table?
That table loses balance significantly.
Exactly.
Structural integrity is already compromised.
Exactly. Easy as that. That's a concept. It could be used in many different positions.
Sure.
And yeah.
And I mean, same thing. Like if you're talking about a 2-post thing that's like landing, right? Even if it's like a standing opponent, you take one away, what's going to happen?
They're going to fall.
They better have really good balance on one leg somehow. That's usually not the case. So
not many people can do that.
So, okay, that leads me to my next question. What is the single most best piece of mixed martial arts advice or knowledge you've been given?
So earlier on, I was having issues with nerves and stuff like that before fights, and the one guy I thought that, how to put it this way, the one guy I thought wouldn't give me a good piece of advice did. And his fight's coming up soon. His name's TJ Dillashaw. And,
you might have heard of him if you like mixed martial arts. Little known guy.
So he was telling me right before his fight against Mike Jackson, Mike David, what was the guy's name? Hold up here. Mike Easton. Sorry.
Mike Easton, okay.
Which was like the turn of the guard for him, basically. And he said Justin Buckles looked back at him and said, why are you so nervous? Don't you like this? Like, you chose to be here.
Oh, that's raw.
And he said, listen, like, look out there and listen. And he did, and he heard roaring people, like, chanting for him. He's like, they're here for you. Like, have fun. And he's that kind of resonated. And, going on within that issue, I mean, someone that's, like, really mentored me and helped me with that kind of situation is Cub Swanson. I mean, I don't think he gets enough credit for being as big of a legend as he is. Sure, he's a fantastic fighter, legend, right? But what he's doing off the mat and outside the cage, no one knows about. And like people need to know, because he's this murderer, but behind the scenes he's a sweetheart. Like he takes all of us under his wing and makes sure that we're all going in the right direction, and that that we know what we need to be doing. Like he knows how to motivate each and every one of us with our own psychological ways. Like per example, like I wasn't being aggressive enough in general with my striking. I was being too willing to stay on the outside and just not fucking meet force to force. And sometimes you just got to do that. And he's like, how come you're letting us bully you? Like, why are you so soft? And he knows that I have that
it's a trigger,
that Kobe Bryant / like Michael Jordan kind of mindset, where I'm like, click, and then I lost it. Like,
Turn it on, yeah.
Yeah, I turned it on, and I don't know. Those are the guys that like really resonate with me, based upon that kind of stuff. I know I got way off of the questions. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That's what I want. I want honesty, you know? So let's talk about that a little bit deeper. So they were saying basically you were kind of holding back.
Caring too much.
Caring too much, right? You didn't want to hurt people. You didn't want to inflict that damage.
No. I care too much about losing.
Okay. All right.
Rather
So
than
you care
going
too
out
much
there
about
and just
losing. So you
leaving
didn't
it
want to
all.
just go into the fire and kind of be haphazard and
Yeah.
really take on the damage. Okay. That makes sense. Let me ask you, because I know you have more of a wrestling background, obviously, right?
Actually, no. So most people don't know this.
Because I know you said you started in wrestling, right?
No. So I started at 7 years old, I think, in Taekwondo.
Oh, okay.
My dad put me in, and he did it as well. He did it as well.
Nice.
And then we both got our black belts. And I think he's a 3rd degree black belt. I'm only a 1st. Just because I think I was 12 or 13 when I got my black belt, and I just kind of was like, where do I go from here? I didn't see a vision, and so I just stopped, and I kept playing hockey, and he kept going on. Eventually, obviously, he was saying.
So how many years did you do Taekwondo?
7 years, maybe a little bit
So
less.
you did it till you were like 13, 14.
Yeah, like 6 to 13, probably.
Okay.
6 to 14, maybe.
I mean, that's a solid base.
Yeah, and then I just stopped, and my leg dexterity is from Taekwondo.
Sure.
But like you said, my base, I would say, is wrestling, just based off the fact that I just kept doing that. So I started as a sophomore in high school, and I got lucky as hell, actually, to be honest with you, because I knew that I had a lot of ground to catch up. Because I grew up in Chicago, so the Midwest is no joke when it comes to wrestling, and these kids had been doing it since they were like 8, and I started as a sophomore.
These kids in the Midwest, they start doing it like when they come out of the womb, they come out in a singlet, bro.
Exactly. Like, it's different. It's not like,
by age 3 they've got the tattoo, the
USA Wrestling. We actually have a joke about that. It's that there's only 2 types of people that get that: people that are Olympic guys like Jordan Burroughs, or
and people that are not good,
and people that just suck.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you get it if you're literally the best, or if you're like at the bottom tier. You don't get it if you're like, yeah, I did it, I'm pretty good at it.
That's why I never got it. I was never one of those guys that, I was never going to state or anything like that.
You're like, I'm not top tier, and I'm not like bottom of the barrel enough to be like, yeah, I used to do that.
Exactly. Those guys they crack me up. But either way, I got in as a sophomore, and I knew I had a lot of ground to catch up to all these other kids. So I started going to club wrestling, and I got lucky. I got in with my assistant coach, whose name's Andrew Gildy, who I owe honestly, I owe so much to. He was one of the first coaches to truly believe in me and just push me, because he knew that I had the work ethic to put in, rather than some of these other kids who just were there to show up. I was there to win, and I didn't give a shit what else. And he took me under his wing and brought me. He was a club coach at this. It's a famous club called Izzy Style.
Oh, Izzy Style Wrestling. Yeah. He worked with, I believe,
John Jones, all those people.
Or no, sorry, John Jones' team on The Ultimate Fighter. That's where I learned.
Yeah. So he's a staple in the Midwest. But my coach used to live with him, and so on and so forth. Basically grew up learning to coach from him and stuff like that. From what I believe. And then he started his own club, and then we all joined in, and I was just gun-ho from then on. And every day I was showing up early. I was showing up to my school at like 5 a.m. just to run. Just because I needed it. I knew that someone was out there waking up that early and working out.
Oh yeah, someone was waking up earlier than you, and that upsets you.
Yeah, it pissed me off. I took that shit personal, to be honest.
Absolutely, man. You have to. It's the only way you get better.
Yeah, so I guess that's where my background comes from. And then
Taekwondo, wrestling, kind of hybrid background. But if I put a gun up to your head and said, "What's your base?" you'd say wrestling.
Probably, I'd say that. And then having the pleasure to train with Dwayne Ludwig, I think that brought a different view when it comes to striking for me to the Dutch.
Muay Thai, like I love Taekwondo, I love karate, I love boxing, like I love all styles of martial arts. Specifically, like I'm a striker, right? So I love striking. I appreciate wrestling. I'm just no good at it. So like if you and me got on the mats and we were like grappling included, I'd have a really, really tough time. If it's just striking, I'd probably have a really tough time because it's been a while. But I'd at least have somewhat of a chance.
Yeah. No, and in all honesty, I'm gonna give you a controversial statement then. I think the best striking base is one of two things.
What's that?
It's Dutch kickboxing / Muay Thai. I guess you can kind of intertwine them. It's just a little different. To me, those Japanese kickboxers are something special because they actually add boxing into it, which is a lot of deficiency in a lot of these kickboxers.
Well, if you,
they don't really throw
watch
hands.
Some of the Thai guys from Thailand, like legit Muay Thai boxers, some of those guys put the word boxer in Thai boxer, bro. Like they've got hands. And like I think the biggest thing that's missing in like traditional Muay Thai fighting, and this is going to be a controversial statement, it's footwork to an extent. Like don't get me wrong, Muay Thai fighters, Muay Thai is my favorite style of martial arts. I would say it's what I'm most proficient in. Trained at AKA for like 5-6 years. I did like one seminar with Dwayne Bang Ludwig. Like he was supposed to be there for 2 hours. He ended up his flight got delayed, so he's like, "You guys want to stay for another hour?" So it was a 3-hour thing. It was fantastic, but it's not really a lack of footwork because I think all of these guys, and myself included, like Thai fighters, they know footwork, but when you're fighting in the Thai style, you don't get to see footwork happen as often because when you circle out with footwork, you're typically going to catch a calf kick. Or like the crowbar style like Thai sweep, and that is not fun when you're circling into it. I've been there, I've done that. It doesn't feel good to have your head bounce off the mat and they didn't even hit your head.
Nope.
Like, it's not a good feeling. It's literally like inertia. It's like tripping going into a grocery store because literally like, you don't feel it coming. You hit the ground. You're like, what the fuck just happened?
100%. I feel that every time I spar at classic fight team.
Imagine.
Tyler Wombles and all those guys, and there's these brothers that I don't know, like they've been training since they were, I'm gonna say 6 years old. They're in their 20s now. They're the Paez brothers. Actually, 2 of them have title fights coming up. I think they're both undefeated.
In, what promotion?
It's Muay Thai. Let me actually look it up.
It's a Muay Thai promotion. Okay.
Yeah, it's in California. They're Thai fighters.
Nice.
So, yeah, but like, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, Diego, he's 10-0 as an AMI, 6-2-2 as a pro, 5-time champion.
There you go, dude. Those stats alone, that's like, when you read that and you're like, this is the guy I'm sparring? I'm okay.
And they're fighting on World Championship Muay Thai, Bad Intentions, Burbank, November 12th.
Nice. So you spar those guys?
Every now and then, yeah. They're something special. Like,
Sure.
Like their technique is just like so crisp. It like is ridiculous.
Isn't it crazy when you see somebody that has like, I don't want to say perfectly sound, but just about perfectly sound technique? Because like I had a couple friends actually come over this weekend, and both of them are into mixed martial arts, but neither have trained. And so I brought out like I still have my kick shield out right now. Like I brought out the kick shield. I was teaching them some moves, and like they were throwing them, and they're like I wrapped their hands for them and everything, and they're like, dude, this like I feel like super strong having my hands wrapped. Like, is this what it always feels like? And I'm like, yeah. And like by the end of like training, but just teaching them a handful of moves for like an hour and a half, they were like, no wonder you do this and you love this. Like, this is insane. I haven't felt like I've learned this much in an hour and a half time span, probably ever. And I was like, yeah, and it's applicable stuff. Like, God forbid some douchebag start shit with you. Like, I looked at one of them. I'm like, dude, you've got a nasty hook. Like, dude, you've got a nasty kick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, now you know that. You didn't know that before.
It's the bug.
You know what I mean?
Man.
And
catch it.
And that's the thing is like, I feel like every single person can do mixed martial arts, and a lot of people have these like crazy proficiencies. But like when, again, going back to like the original topic here, when somebody that's untrained sees somebody in person, no matter how many times they've seen the UFC, like I'm nowhere near UFC caliber. Openly admit that. Like, it's no surprise, right? I'm wearing the UFC shirt. I'm not in the cage. So, but when they see me doing these moves, They're like, dude, you're like a fucking machine. Like, you look mechanical. It's scary how fast these movements come out of you. And I'm like, the guy, like me 6 years ago when I was like training, I'd kill the dude I am today. Yeah. I feel like I'm like a machine that needs a lot of oil, you know?
Drillers make killers.
But still, like, drillers make killers. So like it comes back. And like if you've trained in these things, it's crazy. So like for you, you have 6-7 years of Taekwondo. You've got years of wrestling at this point, both, you know, like at the school level and at the, you know, amateur semi-professional level. So I guess like for you, having such an arsenal to kind of fall back on, how do you come up with your game plan? Is that something that you do, or is that something that you really just kind of leave in the hands of your coaching staff, or kind of like what's the thought process behind that?
It's a give take, you know, like everyone kind of comes up with their own ideas and kind of puts it all together. I just send out the film to everybody, and we kind of are like, okay, like, you know, this is what we got to watch out for, got to work on, based upon their strengths. And then Aiden Ingram and I, he's a teammate of mine. He's like my right hand man, honestly, and you know, we just kind of come up from there with like, all right, this would work on that. This would work when he does this, just because we're both psychotic, and like when we're together, all we do is we watch film or we're training. Like he lived with me for about 8-9 months, and I don't think I watched, other than at the beginning of the pandemic when we watched Tiger King.
We all remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it was an addiction for everybody, but I don't think we watched TV or anything other than fights for 8 months straight. And that's just the kind of thing we do. We just breed that out of each other, where it's like, you know, I work in sales, and what I'll be on the phone, off of the phone, we're watching film, writing down notes, being like, oh, we should try this today. Oh, we should do this. And I think that's what makes better fighters, is people that actually give a shit about their own progression and things that they want to do. Like, once again, going back to my jiu-jitsu coach, he says there's, you know, the main thing we learned, but you have your side projects, and you should still be working those.
Absolutely.
So I just think, you know, if you see something you like, try it. What's the worst thing you're going to do? Get punched in the face? Oh, shit, we already are.
You're in a fist fight. That's probably bound to happen, right?
Exactly. So, yeah, no, just things like that just crack me up. But I think that's what makes a better fighter, and with game plans, at least. Like, for example, I've been, you know, I fought a southpaw once. So I watched a lot of, you know, orthodox versus southpaw, or southpaw versus southpaw stuff.
Trying to figure out what works, what's different.
Yeah, because combos are different. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, a great example of someone who was a orthodox fighter, fighting against a southpaw fighter and performed it to perfection. Alexander Volkanovski, when he fought Ortega.
Absolutely.
Perfection.
Absolutely. Perfect example. And I mean, like, you can watch that fight and you can see a number of things, right? Like, he's going against somebody that's proficient in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and submissions, right? You would figure, and again, this is just my take, right? Like, if I'm going against somebody that I know the biggest threat is going to come from them being on top or underneath me, right? I'm probably not going to throw a ton of kicks, just at the risk of them being able to get an easy takedown.
100%.
He hit him with so many kicks, but the way that he set them up was brilliant. He set it up so well every single time. He pumped out.
You're familiar with Jack Slack?
Who's that?
Jack Slack, the YouTube guy.
Oh, no.
So he's this famous like YouTube MMA analyst.
Oh, okay.
A little different from you in the sense that he does a podcast, but his whole thing's about breaking things down. He's this British dude.
Kind of like how Dan Hardy does.
Exactly the same way, but he has a Patreon and he does breakdowns of fights and fighters. Well, he has one of Volk, and it's so detailed. It's insane, and I use it to this day.
I love that.
The guy never fought. The guy's never fought, but he breaks these down just like you. He breaks down.
That's originally what my plan was going to be. Like, I wanted to break down fights like that, but like the first couple videos I tried to upload, I just think I tried editing them like 10 times because
he doesn't do videos though.
Okay, I always like I want to do the backdrop videos because I feel like, I don't want to say casual fans, but casual fans and like casual enjoyers of MMA that end up tuning in, they're like, well, what is it? What's a spinning back wheel kick? What does that look like?
Exactly.
So like, if I have a
100%.
video, it's like they can see it and they're like, oh yeah, I mean that is a pretty risky move, but he did set it up with a
Exactly.
jab really nicely before he spun around.
So the way he does it, it's all text, and then there's GIFs
Gotcha.
of the move,
Okay.
and it's all through
Smart.
Patreon. Another guy,
Love
Luke
it.
Thomas, did a breakdown.
Luke Thomas is
fight.
fantastic. I love Luke Thomas.
It's an hour and a half.
Yeah, some of his videos I'll say are a bit long. But
it deservedly so.
I was gonna say, but deservingly so if you're talking about somebody like Alexander Volkanovski, because he has, I mean, just talking about the way that he set up the leg kicks and body kicks in that fight alone, the nuances and the way that he knew to set things up, like even just getting out of that submission, you can make a 30-minute video out of that. Honestly,
they kind of made a joke video. I don't know if you saw that with Craig Jones. Where he's like, we're gonna learn how to breathe out of our buttholes.
Craig Jones is a riot, dude. I love that.
Oh, he's the man.
All right, so yeah, I feel like there's so much you can learn from like that fight alone, and just going back to your topic before, when you're sitting there watching fight and watching tape all day, all you're gonna do is learn. And even if you watch a really bad fight, you're gonna learn from it. Things not to do, maybe. Either way, there's always a lesson to be learned from a fight that's already happened.
But some people don't watch film. Like,
that blows my mind.
Going back, TJ does not watch fights.
That blows my mind. I've heard him say that in interviews. He's like, "Yeah, I don't watch film. I let my coaches do that."
He does not watch fights.
That's so crazy to me.
He's like, I don't enjoy it. Like, I like watching the Raiders though.
That is wild.
And I don't know. It's just like different strokes for different folks. But you see, he's doing it at the highest level,
and he's killing it. So I mean, great.
Exactly.
All right. So next question for you. You have a fight coming up. When is the exact date of your fight?
The day before Thanksgiving, which is the 23rd of.
Oh, that's a tough weight cut. But you know what? The spoils of war will be great.
It's the 23rd. I was right somehow.
Beautiful. So the 23rd of November. So that's fantastic. And you're fighting a kid named Valentino Ortiz, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So what's the style on Valentino?
He looks to seem like more of a grappler. He doesn't look to seem too confident in the feet, but it's been a while since his last fight, and honestly, I'm not really too worried about him. I'm more worried about myself, bettering myself, and just coming in the best version of myself.
I love that.
Absolutely
love that. I know I've watched all of your fights previously. I know you've had some setbacks recently. I'm a firm believer that the slingshot has to be pulled all the way back before it can be launched as furthest forward, right? So the get up is always better than the setback. So for you, in that matter, what have you been doing differently this training camp to, like you said, better yourself for this fight?
I've been a bit more structured in regards to my practices and just where I'm putting my energy in. I'm working with a guy who's he was a UFC veteran from the 125 division. Alp, we call him. He fought John Lineker actually in the UFC.
Oh, what's his actual name?
Hold up, he's Turkish, so I have to.
Oh, okay, it's one of those hard to pronounce names.
His full name is Alptekin Oskilik.
Oskilik, that's a cool name.
And no, he's awesome. It's honestly amazing that the chance I've gotten to work with him, and working with the guys out of Classic, Tyler Wombles and those guys at 10th Planet, Mission Viejo, all those guys like Matt, and, I'm just surrounded by greatness, to be honest. And like Matt, lucky enough that he's helping me with my fight. He's coaching in UFC title fights in. He coaches Carlos Esparza. So
nice. I love that.
So the fact that I get to work with these guys and they actually care and give energy towards me, and time, I'm just lucky, to be honest, to be surrounded by these people. But I don't know. I'm just happy, and this is the first time I've been happy in a long time. So that's the thing, like you were saying, like to pull the slingshot back. I had to take a step back and just kind of look at where I'm at, and I had all these goals when I was like 16, 15, like sure, like if I did my route a little bit differently, but why think about that? That's not going
The
to change
thing
the
is,
past.
you come up with goals, especially like when you're younger like that, to push yourself, to catapult yourself forward.
Mhm.
If you don't land right where you set those goals, that's 100% fine. The fact that you keep working towards those goals, or you set new obtainable goals to work towards now, that's what's important. Right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing with like any kind of loss in life, right? In my gym, and I'm sure it's the same exact quote that they use in your gym. I'm sure it's a common MMA gym quote. Like, there's no such thing as losing if you're doing this whole thing right, right? There's
Mhm.
winning and there's learning. And you've had a couple learning lessons. And right now
Yeah.
you're going to bounce the hell back and you're going to crush somebody for it.
No, I really am happy about it, and some people that I do have to think about it, because I used to always think about my weight cut, stuff like that. I actually am lucky enough to work with the same the fight dietitians, they're called.
Yeah.
And they work with Volkanovski, Israel Adesanya. Like they're in Vegas right now working with Jordan, right?
Dude, I love it. Shout them out.
So I just am really thankful for them and what they've done to me and helped my body, because while I am an average size 135er, I like to do things correct and I don't like to miss anything. So those guys have that shit down to science. So I'm really thankful for them. And
It's a very important part.
My sponsors at Taste Me Nutrition, shout out to them for making the meals, and also my girlfriend for making my snacks and some of my meals as well. So I appreciate it.
Love it. You got to shout out the sponsors, man. And this is going to be one of the last questions, not quite the last one. Without spoiling too much, what is your game plan going into this? Do you have kind of a strict game plan, or
let's just say he's gonna remember me after this one.
Okay.
The day after, at least.
I love it.
He's
I
gonna feel
love
it.
Do you? And the next question is, do you have any tape on him that you can send me? I tried looking the kid up, and there's
I got you.
There's more Valentino Ortiz's than you might think.
I know, trust me.
At first I was like, this has got to be him, and then I found two more, and I'm like,
it's like a welterweight, huh?
No, so two of the ones that I found were actually in your weight class.
Oh, that's weird.
2 out of the 3. So I thought I found him because I found the welterweight guy first. He was either a welterweight or a featherweight, and I was like, this can't be the guy. This guy's hella big. And then I found another guy, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is the guy. And I watched the full fight, and then right after I watched the fight, I look at the picture that you posted, and I'm like, I don't think this is the guy.
Yeah, no, they basically posted the video as a whole event.
Okay.
Rather than breaking it into individual fights.
Yeah. If you just send me
I got you.
the whole event, I'll find it. Yeah, send me after this because I'm trying to watch later. Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like you're in a really, really good mental space, and I'll be the first to tell you, having trained myself, like I haven't fought professionally, fought in one tournament, did a lot of fun days at sparring, and when you show up to sparring and your head's not there, if you're going against somebody that's not as good as you, they're probably going to be better than you that day.
100%.
Head is not there. It is a 90% game, like 90% mental, 10% physical.
100%.
Granted, like if you're not doing the right things in camp, it's going to show no matter how, great game mental you are. But realistically, you have to do everything right mentally, and you have to make sure that you have the perfect headspace. Like we've seen Israel Adesanya hire, breathing coaches and mental coaches and all these things just to kind of fix little fine tuning in his mentality, the way that he thinks, the way that he's breathing throughout moments specifically, right? So super proud of you. I'm super happy to see your headspace, and I can't wait to watch you go to war in November, man.
Oh yeah, trust me, it's something to tune in for. It's just the beginning. 2023, I'm telling you, it's going to be an interesting year.
So again, everybody that tuned in or will tune in the future, thank you for the support. I will upload this video later on YouTube as well, and make sure that you give Ian a follow on all platforms. It is on Twitter, Juice135MMA, on Instagram, juice.mma. And then if you want to look him up on SureDog or on Tapology after this big win. So thank you all for tuning in. Let's go, Ian. And,
hit the like and subscribe button.
Hit the like, hit the subscribe, all that stuff. Smash the bell for notifications. And as always, thanks, Ian, man. I appreciate it.